yes, he went through all that process to get the paperwork, and yes, felons are not allowed to have guns, but why does a 19-year-old boy who lives in the middle of a country in Illinois need a gun? That's really what I want to know. And I think that people who have a badge and people who are here to defend our country and work particularly for the government to protect others and not necessarily themselves, they are the ones who should have the gun. I don't think that young men or women, whoever, should have a gun. It's dangerous, and it only ends bad. And I don't feel safer knowing that there's a gun in my house. I really don't. I feel safer knowing that I can call 911 and the trained professionals are there to protect me. And I would rather, I know some Taekwondo. I can defend myself if the case arises. And I've taken it upon myself to be able to know how to defend myself in a manner. Yes, it's considered violent, but I'm not using it as a means to promote violence. I'm using it as a means to protect myself and get away to the police.
Again, I think that I think a lot of this stems from our news media, and we create this atmosphere that we live in this dangerous world where we need this form of protection. People are getting shot and robbed and killed, and again, we just said that 49 people were shot on the south side of Chicago, or in Chicago in general, on St. Patrick's Day weekend.
10 were killed, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. 10 lives were taken.
There are definitely pockets of areas where there are danger. There is violence. My suggestion would be don't go there. Try not to live there if possible. If it's dangerous, obviously the police have to go down and do something about that. The point I'm trying to make is that the media puts so much pressure on the rest of us to react. Case in point, Geraldo Rivera's comment about hoodies. Anybody's going to react to that. You can't decensor and you can't turn off something that ridiculous.
That's true.
Even Stephen Colbert, I kind of feel like, is at fault too for even making, basically
acknowledging the statement,
a parody out of it.
Right.
He took, in a sense, and I love his material, but he took a very sensitive subject. And you can even hear in the clip, you can even hear the crowd. They were a little bit like, all right, this is
careful where you're going.
You're pushing the buttons, but also. It's a show, and it's a lot of it is entertainment, but there's also a lot of realism there. And then he turned around and he made a funny satire about it using Geraldo Rivera's comment about hoodies. I'm of the belief that this is not that dangerous of a world that we live in. The media personifies that. I made that point. I said that we are hundreds of millions of people that have scenarios. These are scenarios that happen in our lives. People get shot. People go to the store. People have birthday parties. People have radio shows. People go to college. These are all the scenarios that encompass our lives. People get shot. People are murdered, robbed. These are very small snippets on the greater scheme of things on everybody's life. There are certain pockets of people that do live in dangerous scenarios. I'm sure the Middle East is not all picnics and hummus. But those are small pockets of places
not
where
just
there
camel
are
riding out there.
I'm just saying there are
saying.
pockets of small violence, and and the problem is that we put so much emphasis on trying to arm ourselves because we live in this dangerous world. I don't personally feel like I live in this dangerous world. I believe that people are put in dangerous situations occasionally.
Okay, I will disagree with you a little bit. And actually disagree with both Liz and you. And I like this. We actually have counterpoints on this, and we're not all just preaching the same thing or our own opinions that tend to agree. I don't think that it's occasionally violence happens. We are in we're finishing up March, headed into April, right? Chicago has already eclipsed the 100 homicide number. Over 100 individuals have died.
How many people live in Chicago? 3 million. Do the math.
Hang on, though. What you're technically doing, and this would be my argument against that statement right there, is not one life enough? If it's your kid, if it's your mom, if it's your father, if it's your brother, is that life not enough for you to stand up and say, I don't want it to happen to someone else because the emotion and what that makes me feel is enough that I want to stand up and do something about it. So, I think, yes, statistically you can say, based on the amount of people that live here and the amount that have died, that's not that bad. I don't ever want to say that because, to me, if it's my brother's a Chicago cop. If my brother gets gunned down in the line of duty, I'll lose my mind. Something I don't like to think about. It's one of those things where, like, ignorance is bliss in that situation because the more you think about it, the more that, you feed into that emotional fear or whatever.
Especially if he's just considered a statistic as well. That would upset me, too.
If you heard, exactly. If someone said, well, based on the amount of Chicago officers that are there, based on the history of how long the CPD has been around for, it's not that bad. They're safe enough. They don't need any more laws that give the law enforcement more right to protect themselves.
But that's someone's father, that's someone's brother, that's someone's son, that's someone's mother, daughter, sister. That's someone's something.
Sorry.
Do you know what? I mean, if you were to do the math, do you know what 100 people out of 3 million people is?
Spit it out. What is it?
Do you know what the percentage of that is?
No, what is that?
It's like literally like 33 thousandth of a percent.
Of a percent? Very
of 100 people. So here's my point. So let's break this down into life expectancy.
Which
this is just quick math. So
okay.
let's say let's give the average human 75 years.
It's a pretty good number.
Roughly. I'll even give you 5 years.
70 is probably
Let's go
75
70.
is good. Okay.
Times point. I'm doing this in years. Time point 000.
This is live math
3,
that's
3.
taking place right here. Remember, he was the one who said he wants to come back to college, so he would kill it, as he said. I would not only just come back, but I would do awesome. And
hold on, give me 1 second.
Okay, as he's doing the math.
I mean, it's literally out of years. It's literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6. Help me out with the math here. It's been a while since I've done decimals.
2, 4,
I mean, it's
6,
low. This
8.
this would literally
8.
be. It's okay. So
point 0 or 7 8 or 7 or 6 zeros 4 7. So any math major out there who can actually.
So I mean, out of the 70 years that you live, if you divide the number that I had put into, this is basically in the greater scheme of moments of how dangerous your life would be. Of the odds of being killed. I mean, you might as well play the lottery.
But in reality, though,
or having some sort of act of violence happen towards
the number that I just used, though, was up until March. So if we continue, that's what March is the January, February, March. That's the third month, right? So
okay.
we got 4 months or 12 months. So take that number, times that by 4.
We're losing 400 people a year.
400 people a year. Times that over 70, then. Say one person's linear year, 75. 400 people per year, and I think that we're just taking homicides here. So 400.
So in 70 years, you lose 28,000 people
in one person's lifetime. They live in the city of Chicago from infancy till 75. They die happy, and that's just for this year, or for this 1 year. And you'd hope that the stats don't get worse than that. 28,000 people die in their city.
Right, exactly. And you also have population growth. And I mean, this math is way beyond us. I'm just using
it's very blunt.
I'm just using a generalization of Again, I realize that I took it a little bit far.
No, I think though
but there are some variables.
Right path, though.
But I'm just saying, we're taking one step, but we're also taking one of the largest cities in the world too, and using that math.
That's a very true. And
so
people use Texas as well. In Texas, it's a lot lower. But again, if you take the number of how many people live next to each other.
Do you realize that there are more people born every day that die every day?
I don't think it's right to put a statistic on it.
No, I'm not. I'm not worried about that either. Wow.
At some point, literally the hunger.
Left turn, man. I lost you. No, we're not. We're not running out of people. This is, this isn't gonna be like, this isn't gonna be like a legend where,
If only we had instituted.
No, but I'm just saying,
it's
like it's just not like the math is just not feasible. The problem is that our news media is like
they're fear factors. Absolutely.
The amount of information and how fast we get it has far surpassed our humanity. The reason why we're getting all these horrible stories is because we can get instantaneous news around the world about people dying,
and we're gravitated to that. Let's be honest.
I'm not saying turn the news off, but I challenge anybody out there for 5 days. Nah, let's not even go that far. Turn off the news for like 3 days. Try not to listen to the radio. Try not to have anybody talk to you about who died.
Sounds like a normal week for me.
I'm just saying, I mean, I do it too. I mean, I'm not disconnected, but I mean, it's hard for me, especially when I work a job where I'm in a very social environment and I do hear it. So you almost can't get away from it.
Right.
But I guess my case in point is that, it is readily available to us, and it's going to be in our face whether we believe it or not. Are we being desensitized to it? I mean, possibly, but obviously not when people are getting so upset and talking about arming themselves or saying if it's right to bear arms, this, that, and the other. I mean, I'm kind of with Liz. I don't really feel that there's a need to have a firearm. Again, there's going to be the question of, well, what about for sport? Okay, well, really, do you need a 30-06, or do you need some sort of sniper rifle? These are all questions that I don't really want answered.
Yeah, and I don't think that you can.
All I'm saying is that I don't think if it's for sport, great. I don't really feel like you should be carrying this gun around on the streets because you're trying to defend yourself.
Right.
Yeah, or if you're in the, hey, I was just picking up some eggs and this guy approached me, so I had to gun him down in the third aisle, man. Hey, that's what he gets. If I was in Florida, apparently that would be okay. So I mean, there is a breakdown in the system there. I don't feel that there's a reason to walk around with a gun. I don't think it's a dangerous enough world to where we need for that to happen. This isn't the Wild West. People die every day in all sorts of countries, all given scenarios. I'm gonna say it again. People live their whole lives and never see a gun, never hear a gun fired. And I guarantee you, there's a lot more people walking around that actually do get involved in that scenario. I really feel we get wrapped up in these really tragic stories and people are like, oh, because we all got to jump in a cause and something needs to happen. No, that's not what needs to happen. You just have to realize that it's a numbers game, and the numbers are far lower on the dangerous scale than they are on the higher scale.
We're going to take a quick 30-second break, and then I'm going to have one more question for you guys. I'm just going to pose. We don't even have to answer it, and then we're going to switch and get right to the Hunger Games, as we said. But stay tuned here on the Afternoon Takeaway, Chicago's College Connection. Radio DePaul with Bradley, Liz, and me, Daniel. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
An on-campus job offers more than just a paycheck and short commute. It's an opportunity to build skills and gain experience that will prepare you for your future career. Landing an on-campus job is a competitive process, but the Office of Student Employment has plenty of resources to help you with your search. From practice interviews to resume reviews, the Office of Student Employment is there to help. Log on to careercenter.depaul.edu or visit their office in the SAC today.
This message brought to you by Radio DePaul, Chicago's College Connection.
Radio DePaul is
awesome,
engaging, ballin', an opportunity for me to voice my opinion,
really cool, really laid back,
a big community of everything.
Radio DePaul is Chicago's College Connection.
That's the sound of your classmate receiving an attachment of you posing in your underwear, your ex-boyfriend forwarding the picture to his friends, it being sent to your coach, and worst of all, your dad. All because of the time you posted those pictures on your profile. Anything you post online, anyone can see. So think before you post. For more information, visit www.cybertipline.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Justice, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and the Ad Council.
All right, we're back here on the Afternoon Takeaway with, as always, Bradley, Liz, and myself, Daniel. And as we had talked about before, we're going to tie into the Hunger Games. And obviously, Liz seems out of the three of us to be more knowledgeable and I guess excited. I had mentioned that I thought it was going to be more Twilight-ish. But one of my classmates actually went and saw Dakari, and he said that he loved it. Wasn't expecting to like it, but loved it. So, but you had read an article, I can't remember where you read it, Liz, but you had said it kind of like ties into all of this with like the violence and younger individuals and violence and stuff. So why don't you school us on that a little bit?
Well, I was just kind of browsing through Huffington Post, and I was skimming articles, and it's all about the statistics on how well it's doing at box offices, and we know that this film is, doing really great. It's very popular, based off of, the young adult book series. But my attention kind of diverted over to the side with an opinion piece. And this is from Tim King, who is president and CEO of Urban Prep Academics. And his argument here that he's putting is that the Hunger Games is missing the mark on teen violence. And reading this article, he kind of touches on how the demographic for this book series is young adult readers, teenagers, boys and girls, the same type of audience that Harry Potter was pointed to, with this, sci-fi kind of fantasy literature, but has, groundings in the real world. And he mentioned, the author Tim King mentioned that Harry Potter, his character was orphaned, forced to live under a staircase, and bullied in school. He was faced with all these different things, and then in the end, he has to face trials and tribulations to find strength within himself and vanquish evil. And he argues that the Hunger Games took a little point of view that he really did not agree with, and that was that it almost glorified the idea of violence within teenagers. And I thought that was a very interesting stance for him to take on it, with the idea that young adults now, playing more and more video games, and they're becoming more and more desensitized, as we were talking about, to violence, that we see it so often now in our society that we just don't even think twice about it. And he was severely disturbed by the fact that, his children and his students were reading the series, and watching the movie, then he found that it was kids killing kids, and there was no remorse on the part of it. It was just means to an end and survival of the fittest. And he disagreed with this as a message in the book. And thinking back to when I was in high school, I read Brave New World, 1984, even The Giver. I read that in 7th or 8th grade, all dealing with these kind of dystopian societies. And that's what the Hunger Games is dealing with, is this dystopian society in a near future America, with the capital that is leading and controlling everything, food, shelter, everything like that. And
kind of like China.
Almost, yeah. But that the idea that these children are selected as tributes, and they need to battle to the death, and then they are rewarded with a life of wealth, fame, and leisure for killing the others. And I just was wondering, both to Dan and to you, Bradley, if it is media's responsibility to demonstrate right and wrong, as far as this author Tim King seems to think that it's media's duty, especially to younger audiences, to demonstrate that killing and using others as means to an end is wrong, as Harry Potter demonstrated in a way, that is it really media's duty to teach this to young people? Because I know that the reaction to the Hunger Games was huge. Had a huge opening weekend, beat out Twilight. And I know a lot of people were comparing it to either Twilight, the idea of Bella and Edward, the love triangle thing, like same with the characters of Katniss, Peeta, and can't even remember the other character's name, but like this idea of a love triangle, and that's all people saw. And I know seeing pictures, it was all teenage girls and T-shirts. And
didn't it make $155 million in its what is it, its first
weekend?
Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah, number 3 all time, I believe.
That's insane.
And a mainly teenage audience. Has a PG-13 rating, but the teenagers waiting in the hallways of movie theaters for the midnight showing. Similar to that of Twilight or Harry Potter.
I just have a question, because I'm not confused, but I just want to make sure that when I do get into this topic, I'm on the correct point. Mm-hmm. You're asking if it's media's responsibility, as far as for them to
demonstrate the rights and wrongs. Is it right to
Are you talking about media, or are you talking about entertainment?
Or are they the same?
Because there's the difference.
I'm talking about media in terms of video games, film, television.
That would be entertainment. That's not media.
It is media.
I'm gonna draw a very significant line there. Media is not always true, but media has a responsibility to, or media or the news per se. When I think of media, I think of the news. I think of a forum of people that report a story or report a side of a story. I look at video games,
entertainment,
TV shows, and whatnot. I look at that as entertainment.
Yeah.
So would you say that a film can't report a side of a story?
I don't think so, because even if you think about it, documentaries don't want to be viewed as entertainment. Those are the informational.
That's
those are
true.
Where you're trying
those
to get
are not entertainment. Those are a form of media. Information.
And
media.
it's funny, because actually my sister's listening. She made a good point too. Do we not go to movies to almost escape our normal, mundane, whatever existence, as pessimistic as that is to be put out there. But I mean, entertainment is there to do what? To entertain us. And if you look at something like the Hunger Games, $150 million in what? That's officially 2-3 nights. I think they did a good job of entertaining the people. Now, if you then... Is that acceptable to put that on entertainment?
I don't think
they have
I
a
don't think
responsibility.
I don't think you should be censoring movies, or I don't think it's their responsibility to censor a movie. I mean, that's obviously what rating systems are for. They kind of censor themselves. I think it would be nice for them to be like, hey, in no way...
At the end of the movie,
I've seen some movies over in the beginning.
Injured.
In no way does this relate to real life. Don't take anything from this. This is more of an entertainment side.
Okay, this is where I 100% disagree with you on this.
Okay.
Because you draw the line between media and entertainment, saying that media is here to educate and entertainment is here to entertain. But don't you think that people...
Well, media doesn't always educate, but I mean, they report their
entertainment, but entertainment can educate. I've learned a lot from films, fiction or nonfiction, documentary, whether or not I was entertained by the I've been entertained by plenty of documentaries, whether or not that was their specific goal to entertain. I was educated and entertained. I paid money to see a specific movie to learn something. I didn't know about the King's, I mean, I knew of, the monarchy based on, the King's Speech, but I didn't know of that story. I was educated. And I think that by saying that media is purely Fox, WGN, Channel 7, Colbert Report, which is,
No, that would be entertainment still. I think that...
But it educates me. I watched it this morning eating my, my breakfast, and I was educated on a situation that I was very fuzzy on. I did not know very much on it. And I found that it was entertaining and it was educational. And I think that by saying that media and entertainment are two different things, they're the exact same thing.
Well, I think it's... Oh, sorry, you go, Brad.
Well, here's my question. So I just listened to your synopsis of the
Hunger Games.
The Hunger Games, and you gave this really in-depth, very intelligent breakdown, and you kind of, in a sense, dissected the author did anyways. You took that and said, wow, that is something that I can value as a very good point, a very good opinion.
Viewpoint, right, yeah.
Very good viewpoint.
To your
and
own.
you know what? The way that you structurally made that argument, Liz, 150% sounded great. How many people do you think watched that movie and tore that thing down the way that you did?
You'd be surprised.
Or the way that author.
Now,
I can guarantee you that I would... I'm gonna go less than 20% probably got that far.
And let me ask you this question, too, to piggyback off of that point.
I'd be surprised if the number was even that.
What did the
You
studios...
can say that the number was low because it was mostly teenage viewers.
Oh, nah, I bet there's some teens out there that are going to take offense to that. That's not supposed to be in the
But
list.
that's where I'm going to go
I'm
ahead and
sorry.
argue.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
And let's be honest, though, and you're right. Pigeonholing anything one way or another, media can only be informational, entertainment can only be entertaining. They're not... Obviously, they're overlap.
I don't think it's their responsibility.
The world's a lot of gray. But if we're going to continue to break this down, why was that book... That book got written how long ago? Is that a new
2008.
book? Wow, that's a fairly new book. Okay. That being said, there's this phenomenon that's taking place in cinema right now where they're taking books, which have always been done, but they're taking teen-orientated books and turning them into feature films. And because of hits like Twilight, studios are seeing how financially beneficial to them this will be. Why do you think a studio picked up the Hunger Games? Be completely honest. Was it to have?
I'm not saying that that they're trying to make a huge point with making this movie, but I think that by making that statement that. Okay, yes, the producers picked up the script for the Hunger Games because they knew they could market it. They could market the crap out of it, and they could make a lot of money, and they already have. But I'm saying, as a filmmaker myself, as a director, as a writer, as a consumer of media / entertainment, same thing, I, as a director and a writer, I would like to portray something to my audience other than I'm trying to make money. I want to demonstrate to people that there are stories out there that we can learn from, that there is the idea that it doesn't matter what age you are, you can take something different out of it. Because when people go to see a movie like Avatar, people take out, oh, it was really entertaining. Oh, the art direction was beautiful. Oh, what does this say about rainforest destruction in other countries? They took that out of it.
Yeah, none of that. I got that. Blue people are awesome.
See, that's what you get, but other people get other things out of it. So there's the line where the education does come from the entertainment and the media, and I think that that's very important, and I think that that is the viewer's job. But I think that a good director who takes his time with the script and values the what he's looking at, if he values it, he will know how to create it and actually make a decent story out of it, make the characters believable, make them likable, and actually give the audience something to take away from it other than a full stomach of popcorn.
I disagree simply because a director, a producer ultimately want to do the same thing that we want to do once we graduate here. They want to stay employed and they want to make money. And they know that there's a simple script in order to do that. You piggyback what's hip and happening at that time. It was Twilight, it was Vampire, it was Angel, Buffy, all of that. They brought that back with Twilight, and right now it's a big teen phase, which I think has been in the past, but now it's really catching its stride. Like back when American Pie and all that did that in the 90s, like they started to push towards making movies that featured and starred teens. Twilight, I think, has started a snowball effect that where you'll see the next 10 huge blockbusters are going to be teens. They're going to be centered around teens. The story's going to be centered around teens. And back to almost like what we were talking about before with the guns and stuff. And I like the fact you are definitely strong. You believe your opinion. You have your conviction in your thought process, and that's what you think it should be. But you can't put that just because that's your thought process. Now that's the onus of them, and that's their responsibility because everyone's going to have conflicting viewpoints.
Here's the difference too. You also said you keep saying that media and entertainment are the same, and they, in a nutshell, they are. I'm not going to argue with you on that. They are. Media is entertainment, but here's the thing: when and if I do see the movie like The Hunger Games, if I know for a fact that I even though I may take away, what you had just talked about, I may look at that as like, there's definitely some undertones of that. At the end of the day, it's still a movie and it's not reality.
Yeah. Did you think The Matrix had anything to do with like a symbolism of Jesus Christ and Neo being the one? I didn't think any of that until people started dissecting that movie. And I think you can dissect anything that happens. I mean, people have dissected 9/11, which is something that is been factually said this is what happened.
I'm just really hoping people can decipher the difference. I think majority of them can.
Isn't that the great thing about films, though? Like, I mean, you can't sit there and tell me that films aren't art because
they are art. I'm not saying they're not art, but you're saying, you're asking me that if the studios or the media in general has a responsibility to censor these items or to remake their movies the way that they have been doing them so that people don't take away what this particular author had said. I'm saying absolutely not, because what you said, even though it was intelligent as it is, I don't really believe that people are going to take that, dissect it, and then all of a sudden there's going to be this new wave-o society where people are running around trying to shoot each other with arrows.
And let's even take it a step farther. Do you think the author, and I feel like we're ganging up on Liz, but do you think ultimately at the end of the day, the author of the books truly, obviously they want their depiction to be like as close to what they wanted up there, or do they want their movie to make their royalties to make 150 in the first 3 nights? Ultimately, if you had that choice as a creator, a producer, a artist, a writer, they gave you that question. Hey, it can make 23 million total, but those 23, we're going to make it exactly how you want it, and those people who went out and saw it are going to get what you wanted, and it's going to affect their lives. But again, 23 million total, which means the amount of people that went there, those are the only people that get put into the same situation that of what was your creation. Or we're going to create it so, we're going to play by the script and the rules, and kind of like going back to what Josh Dickey had talked about, like the script, people know what works. We're going to play off of that, take your idea. Your book is still there. I mean, it's not like we're destroying your book. We're going to make $150 million in 3 nights. We're going to expose people to this, and then if they go read your book, then they get what your true interpretation of it, was.
Knowing Suzanne Collins, the author of The Hunger Games, her story, her father was killed in Vietnam, or he was in Vietnam and he either died or he was facing traumatic episodes after that, and she grew up with that, knowing that her father had to deal with that, and she wrote a lot of that based off of her own situations. And I know that as an author myself, as a writer and as a filmmaker, I tend to put my heart and soul on my paper, and I would rather have an accurate representation done of that story. Yes, the money is fantastic, But I would much rather have justice be done for a story that I think is viable and people can relate to rather than selling out. And I'm not saying that people don't sell out, because people do. But I think this is the difference between, an artist and someone who wants to make money. And I consider myself an artist. And I value the message that I am able to create. And I value the fact that I am able to translate it in a way that will impact other people.
Do you look down on the writer then, Suzanne?
Absolutely not.
But she chose not to put the kibosh on it, to where people are assuming the exact opposite of what her interpretation was.
People, their sense of pride tends to take over then. If they think that they're too good for the money, then I think that's smacks of pride. And I'm not saying I'm not too good for money.
That's playing both sides, Liz. That's playing both sides.
Hey, I said it. The money is great.
Money buys everyone out. Ultimately, money. And I'll be completely honest. I say right now, I would never go on Fear Factor. If I had the chance and they asked me to put my head in a pit of spiders, which is the worst thing in the world. If you have ever seen me around a spider, I become a 12-year-old little girl.
Sweet.
But you put the potential of money. Money makes people do anything, and I think we're over.
I don't know.
I think sometimes we read too much into it.
Someone can promise to take care of me for life, and I will never shoot up with heroin. I can swear on the Bible. I'm not a religious person. I will swear on the Bible and my own soul.
One shot of heroin, $150 million.
No.
One shot of heroin.
No.
Wow.
I stand by this.
That is a very bold statement.
I am not a religious person, but I value my soul as a human being, and I value my life, and I value the fact that this is my one body, this is my one life, and I want to make my time here the best that it possibly can be.
$150 million gives you the opportunity to affect more than just yourself and get your thought process out to a lot more people. Do you not think it's selfish for you not to take maybe a little sacrifice for your momentary time to take a little shot of heroin? And obviously, shot of heroin is probably the worst analogy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, where are you going with this?
To do something that you may not agree with one time and have the opportunity then to take that thought process that you've been blessed to have based on your life and your upbringing and then reach so many more people that you can argue if you don't do this opportunity, you're not going to be able to reach that many people. Is that not selfish on your part and too prideful?
I think it is prideful, and I will say that I probably am a very pride person because I won't sell out.
What you're doing is you're basically arguing for pride. I thought pride's bad. Is pride not bad?
Pride is bad, but I'm saying that I would much rather take value in the art that I'm creating and take value in knowing who I am as a person rather than just sacrificing the integrity of what I've put my life into making.
Fair enough. Well, I think we're going to go back and forth on this because I personally, again, I don't look into movies that much. Like one of my favorite movies of all time.
I haven't really.
Is The Warrior, and I identified it because of the relationship between the dad and
principally,
the kids,
I appreciate where Liz took that movie, and that's great. Like I said,
because maybe that is what the writer and the directors wanted.
It was very intelligent. I don't really feel I can't speak for the rest of the viewing audience that watched the movie or that have read the book. I don't know if they go that far and take that away from it. I'm sure there are some people out there that do that. Your question, and getting back to the point you said, is it the media's responsibility? I don't know if it's necessarily their responsibility. More importantly, like we had all just talked about, everything that we had just said, it's based on a choice. I believe it's their choice.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess that ties back.
I don't think it's a responsibility. I think it's a choice.
Yeah, Florida had the choice of conceal and carry. They chose to have conceal and carry. Chicagoans choose not to have conceal and carry because every time that gets pushed up, our representatives, the people we elect in, have staunch views that portray those of the living people, and they fight for that. And I think that's the great thing, though, about America, and we shouldn't try to get rid of that. Instead of saying, we think that this is how it should be, let's do it for everyone. No, let the people feel what they want. Let the people fight for what they want. And that's not going to say that's going to be right. Conceal and carry might change in Florida based on this situation, but let the people vote on that. Don't take one situation and say, now we're going to change the whole thing, because we as outsiders who didn't portray it that way have the say-so. And I think ultimately that is what, that's what makes the world go round, is like you get those contracting points of views, but let's not try to think because I disagree with you I'm right or my view's better. And I didn't want to come across. I mean, just because both Bradley and I disagree. I mean, but we both admitted we go for entertainment value. I mean, we don't go.
I don't.
Looking,
yeah,
so.
I mean, I don't think there's ever been a movie that I've watched where I've delved that deep into it and been like, wow, this could change everything.
Or like, change my view towards something in the world.
No, unless again, it was maybe a political drama, documentary, something a little bit more based on a reality, like. Something more of what I would consider media, where they've uncovered a story. This is their way of telling it. JFK, Oliver Stone movie. I not necessarily believing that Lee Harvey Oswald didn't do it, but I kind of walked away from that movie thinking that there was a lot more to the story that was fed to me.
Right. Or even another example, and I don't even agree with this one, but the HBO that they did on Game Changer for the Sarah Palin. I obviously don't agree with it, but I think that they were coming at it from this is like our
different angle,
our perspective, and they were dealing with factual stuff that have happened recently, and they incorporated the entertainment aspect of sensationalizing certain aspects.
Did you ever feel like you were worried at the end of it, though?
Oh, I really thought, like, for a second she was going to become dictator of the world because I didn't know the ending. So, now,
are you being facetious?
Okay,
all right,
facetious.
yeah. See,
no,
yeah.
I mean, because
I was like, really?
No, that's the thing with.
I wasn't like, oh my god, I think Lee Harvey Oswald. I didn't walk away from I didn't walk away from JFK thinking to myself.
And I think they.
Oh my god, there were other people involved in this conspiracy.
Second shooter. And I think that's the one.
Did anybody see the grassy knoll?
The documentaries do that's different is they want you to understand that we are coming with almost like an agenda. We are coming to educate you on what if it Darfur wars in Africa, or like I saw at my old college the documentary on credit cards and what it has to do with college students. And obviously they have to bring in a portion of entertainment to get people in the door in the first place, because those movies hope to get opened up in theaters, because that's where you hit the most amount of people. You get the people who go to movies regardless. Every weekend, it's Friday, we're going to go see a movie. You can only see so many movies sometimes, so you end up doing the documentaries or the more artsy, and I don't mean to say fartsy because I know consider yourself an artist and that's very offensive to you. But, the ones that they otherwise wouldn't, and ultimately those movies benefit from it. So, that was good. I feel like that was a lot right there.
No, it was a great point. Yeah. Unfortunately, I have to.
Bogus.
This is the witching hour.
That happens. The reaping, if we want to incorporate.
No big deal. I'll try and shoot back next week. Come to the studio.
Yeah,
have some more riveting conversations.
I thought it was good. I mean, if nothing,
good point though, Liz. I'd like that. That was nice.
And I think more than anything, anyone who's been listening, this is the first time ever all three of us have not actually been on the same side. I disagreed with you guys about the gun law. I believe if it is a constitutional thing, if nothing else, let the states vote on it. Let the people who it's going to affect vote on it. Don't let one central unit, dictate
one
for the
isolated incident.
And that's a good point, not to get too emotional about the isolated incident. And then, obviously, with the Hunger Game and the entertainment, and I think it's something that we'll definitely...
I'm going to go watch the movie now. I'm curious.
I'm going to watch that after I watch 21 Jump Street.
Yeah, 150 million, 155 $1 million of people.
Can all those people be wrong?
Well, I mean, I don't know about
Twilight
wrong, but I mean, definitely interested. So I'm curious.
No, absolutely. I think, if nothing else, anyone who hasn't seen it and possibly heard this, they might go in with a little bit of more of an open mind than just enjoying the female lead role, which she's pretty pretty. She's pretty. Did I just say she's pretty pretty?
She's pretty pretty. She's pretty pretty. That's a double pretty. Is that a negative?
Does that mean that she's ugly?
Liz, is a double pretty a negative?
If I tell a girl that you're pretty,
Liz, if I call you pretty, did I really just say that you're not attractive?
No.
Okay.
So a girl doesn't read it, and why would you say I'm pretty? Because that's like saying you're pretty smart.
That's like pretty in the terms of rather or sorta or kinda.
Interesting.
Pretty.
Pretty.
Kinda pretty, rather pretty, sorta
you're like
pretty.
Old school pretty, but like not. Okay. Anyways. What we're going to do now is we're going to do something we haven't done all show. We're going to play a song here, and this will be Bradley's Going Away song. Let's do something special for him.
This will be my exit song.
You got something special for him, Liz?
Yeah, premiering a band called Sons of the West. They have a lot of shows coming up here in the Chicago area. They are based out of Chicago. And hopefully later on in the show we'll be able to talk to the lead singer, Anthony. He'll probably be calling in a little later on. Hopefully we'll get him on here. But this is a song from their new EP. This is called Leave Your Home, but this is by Sons of the West.
And this is for you, Bradley, from all of us, saying thank you. And we're all going to keep our fingers crossed. You'll let me know by Friday? Get back on. All right, so everyone, saying thank you again to Bradley, having him sign off. And Liz and I, though, will be still with you for the next hour and seeing what we're talking about. So stay tuned on Chicago's College Connection Radio DePaul, the afternoon takeaway. See you later, Brad.
Bye.
Waiting for
And welcome back here on the afternoon takeaway. As you guys know, Bradley has left us sadly for the day. He had to go take care of some work meetings and things like that. Life calls, you know. Sometimes forget living or coming into this bunker every Tuesday that we have to jump right back into life as soon as we're done here on the radio. So
emerging into the sun like a vampire.
It's just therapeutic for me. Therapeutic for me. Quick question. We're not getting right back into it. But if you had to describe our show, is it entertainment or is it media?
It's entertainment, which is media.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you said
radio is
the
a form of
thing.
Media, but radio is also entertainment.
Is music entertainment or media?
Both, yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm taking a lot of media classes. I'm learning a lot because, like, media classes entail learning about television, film, radio, even like networking, like social networking.
Do you think,
media.
though, that it's kind of like the religious aspect where, and we're not, obviously, I don't want to delve too much into it, but like Christians, obviously, who are Christians and hardcore Christians, look on the outside as anyone else's, you know, because that's their mindset. You being a media person, and that's your religion, that then affects your perception towards the outside world.
It's kind of like saying that you would be preferred to be called a certain thing, like I'm not a painter, I'm an artist, kind of a thing, or I'm not a filmmaker, I'm an artist, kind of a thing. You're right, it is a type of mindset, and I think because I am considered quote-unquote a media person, I'm not offended by that. I know it's true. I'm a total nerd. I think there's a certain label that we prefer to be called, like hipsters don't like to be called hipsters, but they're identified as hipsters. Yeah, kind of a thing. It's kind of like an unspoken rule. But yeah, I mean, we kind of value being considered artists or media people, and all media is media, and it's entertaining. So yeah.
Well, obviously we stand on the opposite sides, and that's fun. That's fun radio right there. So if nothing else,
fun radio. I was sweating. Oh my god!
Well,
that was like a degree for women commercial over there.
You had some people who are all obviously interested as well. They were interacting with you through Meebo, and my sister was listening. Had her stance on it as well. So I think that's the whole point, and that's why I said on the when we were off the air that that's what I was hoping for. You know, we would find a topic that we all didn't agree, because the world is full of contradictions. We're full of walking contradictions. You know, you're going to have competing viewpoints. You're going to have competing thoughts of what's freedom and what's not freedom. What's something that as Americans we have a right, unalienable right to. That's something that no one can take away from you. And you're going to get different viewpoints on that. And I personally am starting to, and I'm thankfully in this mindset, or I'm happy that I'm headed this way, is that I'm not saying that I'm open to everything, but I'm not going to shoot it down immediately. I'm going to try to, as best as possible, understand what you're saying without allowing, just because someone else is saying it or because 10 people are saying it, then I obviously have to jump on board with it. Yeah. But at least be a little bit more respectful to the other side. And that's why, you know, I thank you for, being a good sport and letting Bradley and I tee off on you both. But
verbal punching bag.
A verbal punching bag for us. But you stood your ground, you know, as you could say, as a Floridian, you stood your ground, you know. And that's a law and a right that they have for them, and you didn't back down, so good for you. So stay tuned to that, as the guys in this station just bash on girls' opinions. All
and then occasionally, what do women think about this, Liz? Yeah. Well, let me tell you.
they're not thinking about you. That's number one. They're not thinking about you. So what's next on the agenda, Liz? What are we talking about next?
Well, like I said, I'm hoping to get Anthony from Sons of the West on the air here. I think he'll be calling in a little bit later. We'll get him for like the last 15 minutes. All
right, Anthony, I'm excited to talk to you.
But I know you mentioned a little while ago that you wanted to get some weird news into the mix.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there was something I saw, it really made me laugh, that there was a Batman pulled over.
I read that article.
Yeah, Batman for not pulled over for not displaying license plates on his Batmobile. And it includes pictures. I will share this on our Facebook page because I think it's pretty hilarious.
And what was he driving?
He was driving, what was it, a Lamborghini?
Of course, because
a black Lamborghini.
Because what really happened was Bruce Wayne forgot that he was Batman and was driving his Lambo to go to Wayne Enterprises.
Yeah.
And got pulled over because, you know, he was in a hurry.
Yeah, the huge.
Do we actually find out who this Batman impersonator is?
Yeah, he actually is the Batman impersonator Lenny B. Robinson, and basically just got off with a warning.
Because he's Batman. Hello, next time that they need to throw the bat symbol up in the sky, he's gonna be like, taking my time because I'm looking for my license plate for my Batmobile right now.
It just reminded me too. There was this video that I had seen on my Facebook page. You really need to get connected, man. You need to get connected to Facebook.
All right, I'm working on it.
It was called Batman's Night Out, and it was basically a guy in a really awesome Batman costume just taking the streets of Toronto by storm. And like that Christian Bale voice that kind of he patented for Batman, like that. Where are the drugs going?
We need to get that
really
YouTube one where like they have the Batman and you can't understand him because Christian Bale, sounds like he ate something horrible.
Yeah, I know which video that is. But it's basically his going around like on the subways and in stores, just yelling different lines from the movies. I just like that. That was so hilarious. And like, how do you feel about people who like you see them out on the streets just trying to be as obnoxious and annoying and crazy as possible? Like, are you entertained by that, or are you
no,
just
not
like
at all.
Go away?
Not allowed at all. Because when I am outside of my either school where I'm forced to interact with people, the radio show where I'm forced to interact with you guys, work.
Forced to.
Other than that, I have my earbuds in, and obviously, if something catches my attention, then I'm open to it. But no, and you can kind of like we talked about like the eye test and my particular eye test. If I find it's just someone just trying to be obnoxious, then I view it as that. It's obnoxious, and I don't really like obnoxious things. Which you raised with the dressing up thing. Have you seen? They did a documentary on this throughout certain states. Like DC has them, New York has them. Like these people who are dressing up as superheroes and trying to be modern day superheroes.
Oh yeah.
Where there's that one individual, I can't remember where he was from, but he actually got arrested because he maced an individual, and it was on tape where he was trying to break up a fight.
Geez.
And he had something that he was, you can buy mace, and he was trying to break up a fight though. Like it was two people who were wailing on each other, and there was a girl that continued to then attack him, and he ended up macing her. He wasn't prosecuted or anything like that, but they did have to arrest him, and then they made like a big deal where he unveiled his face on live TV and all that good stuff. But what do you think about the concept of people trying to, in their minds, and this is interesting though. This is where I was able to try to like stop my first, because it's like, dude, you look like most of them, and I'm not making fun, this is factual, most of them still live at home. Most of them still, obviously, you walk into their particular rooms and they've opened up for the cameras, and they're just walls and ceilings are littered with toys and posters, and they have all these like inspirations. And at first I was like, oh my goodness, that's like, what the heck, right? I look at athletes and I'm inspired by athletes. I look at politicians and I'm inspired by politicians. If I could have a Tim Tebow poster on my wall, I would. I mean, if I ever went out and bought a Tim, I would not be shy about that. I wouldn't feel ashamed. That's someone that inspires me. I look up to as for what he is, without putting him to anything more than what he is. He's a good athlete. He's good at what he does, conducts himself fairly well when he's in public, and hasn't had anything horrible attached to his name. I look up to that. That's an inspiration in his field. Those people do that, but for comics.
I think there's a difference between inspiring and aspiring. And I think it's a little childish almost that mainly males.
They're female, those two.
Oh, yeah, I've seen it too. Like I was going to mention that there was this 2010 movie Super with Rainn Wilson and Ellen Page, and they kind of dress up as superheroes, and she's like the sidekick, and kind of like the movie Kick-Ass, where like no real superpowers, but he decides to take it upon himself to kind of be this masked avenger for his city, and it ends badly. It ends so badly. I mean, the movie was awesome. I thought it was super cool, but really gritty, really violent, and it makes you think that it's like, yeah, it's fun as a kid, because I used to do it. I had my own superhero character when I was like 7, you know, and wearing a cape, running around, and doing good for your dog and
your friends,
beating
and
up your brother,
right.
Stuff like that. But I think there's a point where it's like, are you just really trying to make a point? Do you really think you're going to get your 20 minutes of fame out of this, or do you really think that this is going to last? Because I think it's just that. It's just the 20 minutes of fame. You get hurt really bad, and then you just go crawl back in your corner and draw up a new idea for what you're going to do.
Well, I think that might that definitely a part of that was part of the first initial response as I was watching. And there were parts where I had to actually physically force myself to finish the documentary because it got a little dry towards the middle. But these individuals, I mean, they understand that they don't have powers. They when they talk to the camera, they are very open about their limitations. But they feed the hungry. They actually shell out their own cash to not just give money to homeless people, but they go out. There was a couple, a husband and a wife, where they would create hundreds and hundreds of care packages, and then they'd walk the streets of LA and interact with homeless people that, again, this is a generation, but the majority of us will just walk past because you're not worth my time to even look at. But they would take time to stop and talk to each individual and then give them, like a care package that they created for people in that situation.
I think that's great.
And if it takes assuming a persona in order to help give them the courage, because you could then argue, well, most of these people probably aren't the most outgoing people in everyday social environments, and putting on a mask and putting on what we would consider to be something of a ludicrous or showy costume or whatever, in order to do something that the majority of us, at the best of our days, deem not worthy enough for me to even take 2 seconds to talk to you. Maybe they are modern day superheroes because they're doing something that most of us aren't. And to make a point to what we're doing, I was educated on that particular topic, and not only that, but it did change my particular opinion towards it, because at first, I had that, like, you're gonna get killed. They also showed an individual that he had a buddy who was videotaping him, but he dresses up, he walks around like, I think New York's their park, New York Central Park, and there was an individual who's sitting on a table who is a known drug dealer, and they videotaped him doing a drug transaction. So he walks up to him and says, "You have to leave. I know that you're a drug dealer. We have it on tape. Leave. I've already called the cops. Leave." And he's like, "You a cop?" He's like, "No, I'm not. I'm a concerned citizen. I want you to leave." And he got up and approached him, and looked like there was going to be a physical altercation, but his buddy had him on tape and had the camera rolling, and he ended up leaving. And to us, it means like, well, he's going to come back. He did something that the majority of people would not. And if it took putting on a mask, if it took putting on something that gave him that persona or gave him that encouragement to do, more power to you, man. You're doing something that I'm not willing to do, and you actually made a difference. Who knows? Maybe that guy never comes back and doesn't sell another drug. So whoever his regulars are, maybe they don't, that scares them enough to maybe contemplate something about their life. And so I don't know. I thought it was it's just a funny lead-in with the Batman and the no license plate thing, but it's made me actually slow down in my thoughts towards it, because I'm a fanboy to the extent that I like to go see the movies. I've never really I kind of was into comics when I was younger, but that's about it. I mean, we'll go through what we consider phases, and some of them just, like, they view it as more. I mean, the stories of superheroes are great. They're individuals, go through a tragic, I mean, they're all the same. Individual goes through a tragic situation, ends up rising above and sacrificing himself for the greater good of humanity.
Yeah.
Same story every single time, just repackaged either with a male character or a female character.
And we love it.
Different rate. Yeah, we absolutely do, because I think at heart we all kind of want that at a certain point. You want to have that ability to say that I will think of more than just myself. I have an ability that does make me unique and special and probably better than most, but my first thought process isn't just my own well-being. It's the other people.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting too, like the idea of dressing up and having the inner strength within yourself then to go out and do stuff that you know is right, but we don't normally do, and you just kind of get that extra boost of confidence. And I was procrastinating doing my finals and just watching some YouTube videos and stuff, and it's kind of funny how it spirals out and you end up watching like the Tyra Banks show for whatever reason.
Of course, that's what I watch all the time as well.
I started watching something on like stereotypes, and I ended up on the Tyra Banks show. But one of it was she took her it was a hour-long show to interview a man who was convinced he was a vampire. Mm-hmm. And it went into this huge thing how, he went through blood tests to see why he craved blood, like just all this ridiculous stuff. And I kept thinking to myself, it's like, what has he done so significant that constitutes his publicity on this show? I would much rather see someone, yes, it's ridiculous to see a 40-something-year-old man in tights up on Tyra's stage, but it's like, what has this quote unquote vampire done to warrant this type of publicity? Like, what greater good is he bringing to our society? Except identifying, this fandom that has erupted. And I think that it would be much more interesting to see people like that, like those like unsung superheroes of the streets, brought to life. And kind of, I think that would be the best movement to rise up, instead of protesting against hate crimes and stuff, do it in a way that is not violent, but is definitely impactful. Because I know I've mentioned before, I'm not a big fan of riots. I'm not a big fan of picketing and stuff like that. But I think that by going up with a movement like as noticeable as a bunch of people in these costumes that they've created for themselves, I really think that you can speak a much more potent message of what we should be doing for our fellow man. And I think that would be something worth seeing on shows like the Tyra Show or something like that, and I just think that we need to see more of that. I think it's definitely worth our time.
You like philosophy, Liz? You seem like the type of individual, because I've noticed this based on especially this particular conversation or this radio show, that I think of Tyra and I just think of, like, honestly, I put that in the same category as a Jerry Springer show.
Oh yeah, I know.
So
I
by no means would ever expect to watch that show from beginning to end and be like, wow, I actually learned or feel like I've changed my opinion on anything, because shows like that stay around because I think we as
shock factor.
Yeah, we're drawn to crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, Sideshow or Circus Factory or the shows back in the old days where they'd have the traveling circus and they'd have the freak show and they would parade things that you're not used to seeing.
Yeah, I don't watch Oprah. I don't watch Jerry Springer. I don't watch Tyra. I don't even watch Ellen. Like, I know Ellen seems like the least harmful out of all those, but I don't watch them. I mean, you're right. I liked the shock factor. I clicked on it originally because it was talking about people with albinism on the Tyra Show, and I was
albinos.
I just wanted to see that for some reason.
Sure.
Like, there was no other moral reason for me to watch it other than wanting the shock factor and to be put in awe.
You know what's interesting though? I would reckon that the main reason that is because you're alone, right? You were by yourself.
Yeah.
Controlled environment, and it was something that you could see, you could say the things you want with no repercussion whatsoever from it.
Exactly.
Put that same show where it's live and you have people walking in front and back, and the majority of people only scoff, say something, and walk away, as opposed to standing and watching. Do you spend nearly as much time as you did when you were by yourself watching in a controlled environment?
Honestly, I was able to tune out much more easily, as opposed to being like sitting in that studio audience, being totally immersed and subjected to watching, some hardcore Baptist woman preach to the audience, and to see two albino models talk about their struggle, and then this vampire guy talking about how he was born a vampire and he craves blood. And I found that I was able to tune out much more easily, and I wasn't totally submitted to the mindset that this audience was starting to perpetuate and to build.
Where if you think you're around people who were buying into it,
then it would become slightly. I would feel more anger. It would be like super. What is the word I'm looking for? Like amplified. Amplified is what I'm looking for. Like, my anger would be amplified, or my pity would be amplified. Whereas if I was sitting there by myself, don't normally watch Tyra, and I was able to come up with a conclusion on my own and kind of blot out the audience's reaction and build my own. And I think that it's, the producers, especially of that show, really take advantage of the audience that way, because they are able to totally put them in a situation where they aren't able to escape it, and their feelings just like explode.
I agree, and yes, obviously that's what they're paid to do. They're paid to create an environment that's conducive and obviously makes the audience feel safe, but yes, to obviously lead them in a certain way. You don't ever, I think it would look poorly on the show and producers if they had a guest and the audience completely just like went crazy on them, and all they wanted to do was like jump down their throats. And even if they do, and they didn't pick a person who was going to be a guest that couldn't defend themselves or wasn't smart mouth enough to march back, then TV doesn't, it's not entertaining. But I think, I don't even know if that's what you're like, if the point that you're raising, but it made me think back to, have you seen the YouTube video of the two girls from Arizona in high school? And they're talking about like the black kids that go to school with them, and it's like was considered one of the most racist things.
Yeah, I saw something about that. I was watching like Tosh.0, I think, and I saw it on there. something like that. But I think I know which one you're talking about.
And we'll post it. I'll find it, and I'll end up posting it on the Facebook and stuff like that. But I think we were talking, or Bradley had touched on it earlier, how media, yes, it makes it all new, like news, stories, whatever, information so accessible so quickly. But it also gives you a mask that you can then say whatever you want and not care about what you're saying. And I think that it's the same thing, like with, when you watch TV by yourself and stuff like that, you can formulate these opinions. And now that you have the internet, now you can go out there and you can post this stuff and you can say what you want on blogs and you can come across however you want to come across. And I think that kind of, leads to the world that we're in now, where even if, you kind of tried to raise with the Hunger Games, how they're responsible for making sure that they, put a preference on teen violence and stuff like that. Because nowadays, I think that I'm not going to say one and one go together, but you can look at the amount of video games that have violence in there. You can look at the amount of movies that violence is just acceptable and stuff like that. And it's starting to create this environment that is starting to slowly spin out of control. And when I saw it, I didn't finish it. The first time I saw it, I started watching it. I had a break at work, and I was watching it with my boss. And it was like 13 minutes that these girls just went on and on and on and on and on about it. And you said that, should media kind of be forced to take an onus? Is this something that the government, do we trust the government enough? Do you feel the people that are representing you as a nation, as an individual, should step up and say, hey, this is what we deem to be wrong, let's get rid of that. This is what we deem people should be doing, let's do that. Well, or do we allow the chaos? And in our class, I even said, I think ultimate freedom is chaos. Ultimate freedom would destroy the world. If you could do whatever, say whatever, no matter what, everyone would die.
Yeah. I think it's kind of scary to think about, because you can rationalize one side and then you have an entire slew of contradictions on the other. And I think that if you rationalize, should the government then be responsible for censoring what the media is putting out there, or should the government have control? Should the government be the media? Like, should it be the one that's putting things out, and the media is just no longer its separate entity, but it's 100% controlled by that society's governing system? And I think that it's going to then turn into that kind of dystopian dictatorship that we read about in books and we see in movies and stuff like that. And we become so scared and wary of, we think that we're heading that direction, kind of a thing. But I also think on the other side then, if you just allow the media to portray whatever it wants without any reciprocations, like they can go ahead and they can say what they want about the Linsanity, any racial comment that they want, and there's no reciprocation, then you're right. It will only be chaos, because then there will be these racial hate crimes that are taking place, and they will take it as personal attacks. And it really is only a downward spiral. And I think that in order to find a good balance is to completely rewrite the way people think. And I think that's kind of the interesting, kind of crazy living on the edge thing about our society and our world today, is that not everyone does agree on everything. And there are so many stark different opinions. Like, it's so black and white. It's like apples and xylophones,
Brought back that analogy.
Yeah, I like that analogy, because it works. I mean, it's like saying that, we're going to have a movie where we personify only Asian gangsters. And Asian gangsters, therefore, are personified as bad. And then you get like Fast and Furious and stuff like that. And there was it Tokyo Drift or something like that. And they talk about how the Asians are the gangsters, or the bad guys, and then you get this negative stereotype against the Asians. And how do they feel about that then? And same with like the whole Linsanity thing. With any race, you get that problem.
I agree, and we're gonna delve right back into that. But I have on the phone really special guy. Hang on, are you there? Are you there, Josh? 1 second. Let's see if I'm doing this. Josh, can you hear me? Hello? Josh? Josh, can you hear me? Well, I think I have Josh Dickey on the phone right now. I'm not 100% sure. Josh, can you hear me? I'm going to start hitting buttons until we get this right. Josh there? No?
Who's behind curtain number 2?
I know, right? let's keep going with this though. Let's see if I can get a hold of him. Hey, Josh, you still there?
So we're just gonna kind of work out some technical difficulties here. But yeah, in the meantime, just the idea that there are so many stereotypes that people have to deal with in media, and the only way to end that is to the only way to end that perpetuating stereotype is to start to defy it, and I think that's important to. As means is not a violent way of doing it, but just as a way of portraying that this is wrong. It's not always true. And it's important to remember that society isn't going to change so easily, that it's gonna be a long, slow process. And I think that between government and media, it's going to take some time, and there is never going to be a happy medium.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think we're already in it, but we're plugging Josh through in a second, so just keep going, Liz.
Okay. As the light is blinding me. But yeah, so I think that's in media, I think they do have a certain responsibility then to
And Josh is on the line with us, correct, Josh?
Hey.
Hey, how you doing?
There you go.
Sorry I'm late.
No, you're fine. You're fine. We're happy we got you finally on. No problem at all. How you been? How was it's been a while. I think we missed each other a couple times. Life got in the way for both of us. I went through a massive bout with that one time I was sick. I was dealing with like the worst bout of food poisoning I've ever had in my life. So me and my toilet got really close and personal. And we're on first name.
Are you sure you didn't just walk out of the Hunger Games? Because that's
oh, snap. That was well, how can you say that? $150 million. That's a lot of people.
That's $152.5 million to you, mister.
I apologize. Let's get that correct now. Let's just jump right into that, because that's obviously something we actually touched on a little bit. We read an article. We delved into how supposedly, based on the book and stuff, the direction of the movie didn't do a good job of like showing negatively violence between teens and stuff, and based on the environment that we're in, some people thought that was wrong. Obviously, based on the 150.2, right? 2 point whatever, 0.23 million that it made, teens don't really care about that one way or the other. But what'd you think?
Oh, I thought it was a really missed opportunity for a good movie. It looked schlocky to me. I thought that Jennifer Lawrence was okay, but just all too often she was just dead behind the eyes, which was my problem with her in X-Men First Class.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of her in that.
She was definitely outmatched in that movie. I don't think it was bad. I just think that they had an opportunity to make something, to improve on the book or to sort of bring the book to life, and instead it felt like they were going through the motions of the book, that the book was just they were almost too faithful to it, to the degree that they weren't able to do anything imaginative with it. I thought the fire suits were not nearly as cool. I mean, they just, they got like Michael Bay style flames coming off of these black garments. And that didn't show me anything new. You didn't care about any of those other tributes. It just, I don't know. The whole thing was a mess. I thought they could have done something with it. Instead, it's just like they went out, they just rushed and made the movie, and it made a ton of money because it was going to. I mean, honest to God, they could have had Jennifer Lawrence reading the phone book and slap the Hunger Games on it and do as good a job of marketing as they did, which they did.
Yeah.
Then it's going to make a big number, and the movie just didn't live up to that.
No, I couldn't honestly agree more. Like, even when we were talking about that, it's one of those movies where it's the right time for a movie like that because of the success of like a Twilight, and they basically showed with Twilight that if you have a cult following, you can almost put whatever you want up on the screen, and people are going to come and they're gonna break box office numbers, and they're gonna make it seem like it's so great. And what's even funny to me is that, I mean, I haven't really necessarily heard, this is the first almost probably more like objective viewpoint that I've heard so far, because everyone's just raving about it, but people with Twilight would come back and say like, no, it wasn't that good of a movie, but yeah, I definitely was okay with waiting for it because you bought so much into the concept of what it was that it didn't matter. Like you said, yeah, you could have someone reading, Yellow Pages. It doesn't matter. You're going to go there, you're going to sit there, and you're going to be like, wow, that was the best I did not know that was in the L section. I'll be sure to look that up next time I need a locksmith.
You had a fan base that was predisposed to love the movie no matter what it was like. And then, I read the book and I liked it. I thought this could make a cool movie, and I liked the casting decisions along the way. It didn't work. I don't think any of the casting really worked. I thought Josh Hutcherson was just, I couldn't have cared if he lived or died. I thought there was no chemistry between those two. I thought she looked a little bit lost, whereas I think, somebody who has a little more fire in the belly. I mean, Jennifer Lawrence is not a fiery person.
I would have loved to see Saoirse Ronan in that part.
See, I thought the same thing. I thought the very same thing. As somebody who I can believe is a little edgy and a little bit
kick some butt.
And by the way, somebody who looks hungry. You see somebody who looks
They
hungry.
mentioned that. They mentioned that a lot, actually. That
she's very athletic. She has a really athletic build, and
isn't that the hungry, like the fact that there's like food that's scarce and stuff like that, and she even touched on how it's like, well, I want to like portray to young girls that there's more than just that image, and I understand that, but aren't there other roles to maybe do that in? Like, this is not. If you want to portray something, portray it. Don't.
That's a cop-out, because Jennifer Lawrence has you're right, she's very athletic. She has a look. And the thing is, she was skinny. She is as skinny in that movie as we're ever going to see her. Like, she's not the kind of person who loses weight and then looks gaunt in the face. And you needed somebody who just looked a little more desperate, a little more hungry, a little more motivated.
Right.
And she was just kind of like, well, here I am. Oh, this is weird. And I don't know. I don't think the thing worked really at all. But who am I to say? Life just went from making schlocky Saw movies to making the Hunger Games, and that's a big deal here. And now that they've got Summit, they're in very, very good position to move forward with this franchise, and more power to them. Like I said, I have no.
There's no pony in it for you one way or the other. I mean, you just.
Yeah. Exactly. So I don't know. Did you guys like it? I mean, had you read the books? What was your experience with it?
I still want to see it. I've been meaning to see it.
We just got done with spring break and finals, so most of us are still detoxing from the fact that we went through. So,
exactly.
But we're going. Like I'm going to see 2 movies later tonight. We'll probably see the Hunger Games, but I'm going to go see 21 Jump Street first. So.
I was interested in the idea of like the plot line of it. I thought it was an interesting idea. I'm definitely not going because I particularly like any of the actors. Like, I can live without Lenny Kravitz and Jennifer Lawrence. Like I said, was not a fan of her in X-Men, and I did not see Winter's Bone only because I really had no need. But just the idea of the story, I like that kind of sci-fi action kind of movie, and I think it had potential to be entertaining. And usually I know what I'm getting myself into when I go to see a movie, and I'm expecting to walk out saying, I really learned something from that, and as opposed to, like, I really enjoyed that. And I think from this movie I was just looking to have a good time and enjoy it. And I've been meaning to touch on it.
Maybe you guys saw my Twitter tirade the other day when I came out of the movie, but here's some advice for you when you go see Hunger Games. Number 1, do not be drunk, and number 2, consider taking a Dramamine. Because
really?
The handheld camera work is so awful. It's like,
oh Lord,
this is stuff we thought was cool when.
Oh, what was that monster flick? Yeah,
was using it in 1993.
Oh, Blair Witch
now,
Project.
Guys, we have Steadicams. You have to be having a seizure in order to shoot that way. With the technology we have, so why is the camera shaking all over the place when they're walking down the street? I understand that there's an action scene and you want to cover up the fact that you can't get Jennifer Lawrence to hit the tribute actor hard enough, or that you don't want to pay the money to have an effects supervisor make it look like the arrow is actually going to his chest. That's one thing. But when we're sitting around having quiet conversations, why are my eyes darting all over the room? It's insane. And it's like a crutch to make it look edgy, and it doesn't look edgy because of that. I mean, it looks edgy because of the way that they choose the shot and the colors,
right.
The music and the actor's demeanor, and then you throw in the shaky camera business, and it's like, well, I've just been transported back to Law and Order in the Clinton administration.
Oh my goodness. All right. I don't think there's like you've said this in the past, like with the Oscars and all that. No real big surprise with it. Everyone it did what it was supposed to do, or everyone said it was going to do when it came to box office, and you're gonna have
everybody
those.
Everybody said it's going to be $100 million. Maybe it'll make $100 million. And I was over here going, guys.
I remember that. I was watching that on your Twitter, at least, though. You kept as it was coming up, you kept throwing out the numbers that it was going to be higher than what people were saying it was going to be.
Yeah, it was going to be that because it's one of those movies where 30% of the crowd is ravenous for it. They're rabid about it. They're crazy. They have to go, and then they're going to go again. But you have this other 70% tagging along. It's like, well, I'm hearing a lot about this, and it sounds interesting to me, and I don't want to be the guy on Monday morning who didn't see the movie and can't talk about it.
Right.
There's not a lot of movies like that anymore. There are not too many four-quadrant event tentpoles like that where if you don't go see it, you're going to be out of the kind of cultural moment. And this was one of those, and it was well placed in the calendar because there's nothing around it. It's going to play all through April. It's going to make so much money, and yeah, I mean the fact that they cleared almost 4,200 screens in the U.S.
It's crazy,
including every half-hour screenings that started at 3 a.m. Yada yada tells you that okay, this is not your standard $80 million open. This isn't even a $100 million open. This is like I was thinking in the high 130s at the outset, and then as we got closer to it. And the tracking didn't bounce up much. I thought, okay, maybe I'm going to revise down to like 125, but no, 152.5.
It's insane. What, third highest, right?
The third highest of all time.
That's insane.
And, only behind, The Dark Knight, and what was the other one? I don't remember. Not one of the Twilight movies.
We'll check it out. We'll probably put it up there on our Facebook and stuff like that.
Yeah, but in any case, that's a juggernaut. That is a really, really unusual property.
Let me ask you this, because you had talked and set everything up on how they picked the specific time for it to come out where it didn't have strong competition, all of that. Do you think that this movie, exactly how it is, works 5-10 years from now, where the Twilight fame is gone, where the Harry Potter straight from movie culture to cinema is gone, and something new is hip, whatever that is, whether it's military, I mean, who knows what it'll be, because obviously cinema goes in phases. I mean, superheroes and teen books seem to be blockbusters right now.
Well, let me take that question and turn it on its ear a little bit. This is going to be a bit of a topic shift from what you're going for, but I think you'll be interested in this. Have you guys heard about this just happened over the weekend, in fact, it sold yesterday, the Twilight fan fiction novel called 50 Shades of Grey?
I saw you posted that. I have no idea what that is. What is that?
Yeah. Well, this is kind of supposed to be the next big thing. It started out as a Twilight fan, a British woman, television writer / executive who wrote a story of Edward and Bella as if they were in an S&M bondage world.
What?
And instead of being a vampire who is a dominant, and it took off. It got some traction, and they changed the names, they changed a lot of the plot points, and they wound up publishing it in a very limited print run in the UK, in Australia, where it sort of took off enough that people who were getting it on their ebook readers started passing it around, and now it's the #1 ebook reader title on pretty much every platform here in the U.S., but you won't find it because it is considered erotic fiction, so it doesn't. They don't list those in their top 10. What it's been described as is like mommy porn or sort of Twilight with instead of celibacy, it's just with outright sex. The premise of the movie of the story is that there's this young woman who's just about to graduate from college. She's working for the student newspaper. She goes to interview this late 20s billionaire entrepreneur who's very strange and enigmatic but very good looking, and they strike up a relationship. And at some point in like chapter 8, he reveals to her that he's an S&M, BDSM dominant, and he wants her to sign a contract to be his submissive. And she says, well, what the hell, why not? So
good, why not, right?
That's the beginning of a very graphic, steamy, fetishistic tale of these two lovers that goes off into a trilogy. Well, Hollywood caught wind of it.
Okay.
And they saw it as the next sort of big cinema phenomenon. So the publisher and the writer came out to Hollywood last week. They held meetings with all the studios. All the studios were interested in it. Sony, Lionsgate, Summit, Warner Brothers, Universal. Everybody wanted it, and everybody made a bid for it. Some of the bids were as high as $9 to $10 million, plus a piece of the back end. There were producers with money that came in. They met with everyone. Everybody wanted this movie. And Universal won it. They made their announcement yesterday about 9 a.m. So when you say, would Hunger Games work for 5 years from now, the thing is, 5 years from now, Hunger Games will be probably only into its third movie.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And 50 Shades of Grey or something like it will be just ramping up. I imagine we'll see this movie come to the screen maybe 2014, 2015.
Okay.
And they're going to be very careful with it because they're going to need to get an R rating.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be hard to do. They're going to need to make it, the author got a lot of control with her deal, so she wants to make it a prestige film that's also a commercially viable film. So something,
that's going to be hard, to play that line.
Very, very difficult. It's a very fine line. And who knows, we may never hear of it again. But everybody is reading it now. Everybody's reading 50 Shades of Grey. It's not very well written. It's very amateurish, and so is Twilight, frankly. But will these literary adaptations continue to work in a young adult space? No, they will be much bigger. They will be much bigger piece of the landscape. I think Hollywood was still unsold on whether Twilight was a singular event or was a something they could duplicate.
Yeah, like the changing of the guard kind of.
With the Hunger Games, they're like, no, we can do this again, and we can do it again and again and again, because young adult titles, when well done, can be 4-quadrant titles. And when I say that, I mean you've got tweens and kids, you've got older people, you've got both men, and you've got women. If you hit those four quadrants, you are in the money. Now, Twilight was a 2-quadrant film. 50 Shades of Grey will also be a 2, possibly a 3-quadrant film, but it depends on how much sex they actually put into it. But yeah, we've only just begun to sort of realize the potential for the young adult literary to film franchise, I think, and it's just going to be we'll get way more of this stuff before the market gets burned out on it.
Now,
I guarantee.
Do you think, because like you said, obviously Twilight was the first one, and they weren't sure if it was just like a fluke, and now with the Hunger Games, they're finding basically the recipe, right? And we had talked about this before, how there's the recipe. Do you think then it'll go down and become for a while like a pillar? Like, you can argue most comedies, especially when they deal with the teens or whatever. Sure. It's the same thing. Young teen going through first time, having his first time, and all the craziness that ensues with that. So they're trying to build, like you said, finding the amount of quadrants that they need to incorporate, and then just keep changing the cast for the most part, and little tweaks here and there.
Well, I think it's more of a discovery process than that. I don't think that they necessarily have a formula and then try to make the pieces fit. I think that they go out and look at the pieces and see whether they fit the formula. So, in other words, people are sculling around right now. There's Ender's Game. There's Starters, which is just about to go down to auction here in Hollywood. These young Americans, look, hey, you guys want to make $1 million as fast as you possibly can? Figure out a premise for a young adult novel, get it out in the marketplace.
This is the time to do it, right? Happens. Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's looking at these YA titles right now. It's a big deal.
I've never been a fan of like these adaptations, because I don't know. I never read the Twilight books. I was dragged along, obviously, because my significant other to go and watch that, and hated it, obviously.
Pretty tough to take. That first movie was okay. Everything else after that just went off the rail.
Whatever the last one that just came out, and I honestly didn't know anything about some birthing scene that came on, and I was like, I think I was the only one there who literally started to get kind of loud and be like, what in the world is going on right now, because this is really disturbing and I don't understand. It was whatever, but yes. What about with John Carter? Obviously it seems like it's had its run, and
Oh, it fell off the table. It just completely went off the table. And I was just talking in the newsroom about this morning. I'm like, how much does the box office performance drive behavior? In other words, you're hearing about how John Carter was this huge bomb and it cost all this money and it only made this much.
Right.
That you're not going to then watch it in its second week. I feel like nobody wants to go near a loser, and that's probably what happened to it. I mean, it might have found its audience somewhere along the way if it had had an okay open, but it dropped really fast. I mean, it went, I think, high 50%, maybe even 60% this last weekend. It'll be out of theaters probably by the time we get off the phone here. I am not so, Disney announced last week it was going to take a $200 million write-down on that, and I think that was their way of just sort of ripping off the Band-Aid and closing the narrative, which was smart on their part. But here's the thing, we may not need to know. That movie will make some money back in the long run. People will curiously watch it on VOD, or they will, it's got a paid TV deal. It's going to be on FX or Stars or something or ABC. It's playing pretty well overseas, and it hasn't opened in all of its markets yet. It was a terrible bomb. Don't get me wrong, but these days the revenue streams are so diffused that something like that can actually come out okay. It's not going to make its money back, but they're never as bad as the opening box office figures would indicate. Now, something like Hunger Games, where $152 million, it only cost $80 million to make. That's amazing. The money making so much better than this at $152 million. You have no idea how much Lionsgate is licking its chops right now, because that movie and that franchise will be making money hand over fist for years to come.
No,
we'll never really understand the end game of that.
And you're probably right. I mean, actually, the point I was trying to make with John Carter is, like, you hear about now movies like that do come out and obviously probably appeal to only a certain group, but then once they hit DVD, once they become more accessible and easily accessible, then they find and they seem like they blow up and become cult favorites. I mean, you had American Psycho, Christian Bale, where it bombed and it went through so much difficulty, but once it became DVD and video and all that, it found its group or whatever. Do you think Carter has that possibility? Because I mean, from everything that and I'm just in the same boat as Liz, just wrapping up finals. I'm nipping at the bit to jump back into the movies, and like I said, that's all I'm doing for the rest of the afternoon. Does this have that potential to where, even if this one obviously may not recoup what it's supposed to with now how you can get movies online for free and stuff like that, but it might build for when they reboot it or something like that, possibly?
I don't think so.
No, really?
I really don't. No, it doesn't have that. It just doesn't have that sort of cult fever about it. And it's funny. It's too bad. It's not a bad movie. It's a pretty good movie. I liked it when I watched it. I still kind of like it back on it. There was some memorable stuff and there's some interesting ideas, and it wasn't terrible. But it just doesn't have enough iconography. It's the problem with it was that they didn't know how to market it, and that even if they did, I'm not so sure that another space epic was
what was ready for this time.
Yeah, they just. I mean, I almost feel like I would have shelved this movie and let the summer play out, and see if you can come back at it next year. There's so many aliens in the cinema right now; it's kind of getting out of hand. But I mean, honestly, somebody ought to just count up all the alien movies. I mean, I just found out that Neighborhood Watch has got an alien conspiracy.
Oh,
you're kidding me? There's aliens in everything now, for Pete's sake. If they made On Golden Pond again, it would be
the alien version. Yeah, absolutely.
Terrestrial visitors. Yeah, but I don't see John. I think John Carter's is going to go off with a whimper. I really do. I don't think we'll ever see it again. I don't think we'll speak of it again. I think Disney got pretty bruised by that, and they'll be more careful next time.
I have to ask you, because you're our movie buff, I heard about this actually in class through a teacher of mine, which blew my mind. I was, and still am to this day, the biggest Friday Night Lights fan. Clear Eyes, Full Hearts, Can't Lose, obviously. I heard that they're making a movie adaptation from the end of where the TV show ended. Has any of that crossed your table at all, where you've heard something about it?
I have only seen the Taylor Kitsch quote where he says something like, "I'm happy with where it ended," because he was asked that. I mean, let's not forget, Friday Night Lights started as a movie, didn't it?
It did, yeah. Originally a book, and then they did with Bob Thornton, and they did that movie, which I bought and loved and thought it was a great movie, but I don't remember what it did number-wise. And then,
I think it was okay.
Yeah.
I think it did fine.
And then it's just like one of those shows like Arrested Development or whatever, where anyone who I think had the opportunity or would have just sat down and watched any of the episodes would have wanted to continue watching it, but it never got the numbers that the studios wanted, and they canned it prematurely.
Yeah. My wife just got through watching the whole series, and she just won't shut the hell up about it.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
It's one of those things whose fans are so fervent about it. It's like, I'm not. I'm not like. I'm not going to watch it. I just want. Tell me too many times how good it is. I don't want to see it. That's how I feel like I am with Game of Thrones. By the way.
Oh, okay. You're already over it.
Oh, I'm head over heels for that movie. For that show. I can't wait. It's coming out next Sunday. I don't know. I mean, whenever you have a hit show, it's funny how many years you can get away with talking about whether they're going to make a movie about it. I mean, Arrested Development is just scratching the surface. You've got
coming back, yeah.
People have been talking about a Veronica Mars movie now for a while. It's another Buffy movie.
Yeah, heard about that. Yeah.
I don't have any intel on that one. I'll keep you posted. If I hear anything, I'll bring it back.
And we got to ask one more because we're running out of our time for our slot. Let me ask you this because it is coming out. I believe it's in May. Josh Whedon and the Avengers. You don't even have to get into it if there is a lot to get into, but do you think he's going to be the next Sam Raimi where he jumped up from doing obviously TV and stuff or like things that weren't considered major blockbusters, and then he gets given the keys to something like the Avengers, which has never been attempted? You think it's going to be a hit, or do you think it's going to be one of those movies where literally people are going to be scratching their heads and looking at it like Green Lantern?
I think it's going to be an outsized, mega, super hit. I think it'll be, it'll open over 100, which is what they would expect it to. It will probably make $500,000 domestic, and I would say another $500 million.
Jeez.
I mean, I don't know if it'll be $1 billion franchise. The last one they had was The Dark Knight. Be close. It'll be real close. It's an incredible challenge to take that many characters and make them work together without a horrible mishmash.
I agree.
That's the question. I mean, how good is the movie? The property's great. The effects look great. The characters are great. The Marvel Universe is well known now by a fan base that's enormous and growing. There's no chance that it will be significantly bad to hurt it at the box office. The question is, was Whedon and company able to hold all those elements together for what feels like a cohesive story? And if they do, it's going to go bananas. If they don't, it's still going to go bananas, and it won't matter.
No, that's true. I definitely don't foresee it being Green Lantern style, but it's going to be crazy. And I think
you have established characters in franchises that already have been hits.
That's
so
true.
Iron Man, Thor, the Hulk, and then some of the ancillary characters. There's no way this movie isn't just gigantic. It's just a gigantic hit, and if it's really good, it's going to be so great. And if it's not really good, it's still going to be pretty great. That's kind of the way I'm looking at this one.
Hunger Games better be happy with being number 3 because they're going to be slowly or pretty quickly supplanted. So
I don't know. Those opening figures are funny because Avengers could wind up making a lot more money than the Hunger Games, but not open nearly as big. And that happens a lot, especially with young adult titles. Everybody needs to see it on the first weekend. With broader appeal, the first weekend thing isn't nearly as important. Now, the first true blockbuster of the true summer season, because it's May 4th, so the open should be pretty huge.
It's going to be interesting, and we'll definitely be talking about it as it comes closer. We thank you for, obviously, we knew it was late getting you on and all that, but we appreciate taking the time to come in, and hopefully we'll spend some more time with you come next week. And there's a lot to get into. I mean, obviously the stuff with Whitney that just came out, and we had other questions we wanted to get your opinion on. So here's hoping from everyone here at the Afternoon Takeaway that we can steal you for next Tuesday as well.
I hope so. Thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, no problem. Have a great day, Josh.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Right. Bye-bye. All right, obviously that was Josh Dickey from Variety Magazine out in Cali, and we are going to do something we've never done. We're going to piggyback two guests back to back really quickly. And so, Liz, why don't you start talking about our second guest that we're going to have on in a second?
Yeah, we're going to have Anthony on from Sons of the West. It's a local band. Anthony DeSano is our guest who's going to be calling in just a few seconds here, hopefully. They're kind of a rock and roll kind of blues band, three guys. And they have a really kind of cool sound to them. And so I'm really excited to have them here on the show with us. I want to try and kind of get some more local artists in and really try and promote them because they do have some shows coming up here. So I think we have them on the show right now. We're going to put them on the air in just a second here.
What up, Anthony?
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, Anthony. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks. Thanks for hanging in there. I know we were really trying to get you on here.
Yeah, we're not giving you the cold sholdder or anything like that. It's just
fine.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me about your guys' band, Sons of the West.
Well, we've been playing together for probably 5 or 6 years now. We all met back in high school. We all went to high school in Ohio, back in Columbus, and
Nice.
So we kind of started playing together early in high school, and then when we got then we started then we all moved out to Chicago together. They went to Loyola, I went to DePaul, and we've just kind of been living here ever since.
Nice. Go to Paul.
Yeah,
Big fan of
go
DePaul.
Blue Demons.
Oh yeah. So you guys have been playing shows for 5 years, or have you guys just kind of been slowly rolling up and trying to get what you can, or?
Well, the weird thing is I think Chicago is. We didn't realize this coming out here, but just slowly realized it after being here for a while and not being 21. I just turned 21.
Happy birthday, man.
But
good city to be 21 in.
What? Yeah, it is.
It's a great city,
awesome.
man. You fall over into a bar.
Yeah, I actually work at this bar over in over on Division.
What are the
So
odds?
it's awesome. But the city I find is super ageist.
Oh really?
Especially for artists who are underage trying to find shows, because a lot of places want or need you to be 21. We've packed up, moved all our stuff out to a venue, and then got stopped at the door, and they told us oh, we can't let you in.
What?
And we're
That
yeah,
sucks.
really. That happened in Logan Square, and then another gig we played was they had us set up and then go out and sit on the curb for 2 hours until we were allowed to come in and play.
Oh man.
So and also not having as many friends who are over 21 or who are underage and everything, it's hard to get people to come out sometimes who are your friends who want to go but they can't get in. So it's kind of frustrating sometimes, but we've had 3 shows this month, and then we have more shows coming up in May and trying to get stuff in April. So
Hey, don't you guys
as,
have a
as
show?
much as we can.
Don't you guys have a show coming up on Thursday?
Yes, this Thursday at Vision Nightclub. I think they're having a new Music Thursday. It's called Live in the Dome or something, but it's supposed to be blues-based blues rock band. So
Nice.
I think we're playing a band called Apollo House, who plays with us at the Beat Kitchen. They're a great band, and a band called the Lucky Dutch. That's the bill. So it should be a good time.
Very cool. And then you guys have something coming up at Lincoln Hall on May 6th as well, right?
Yeah, the DePaul Music Business Organization is sponsoring this event it's sponsored by Oxfam. It's this big, it's this charity event thing. But, so we're going to be playing there on May 6th. And Lincoln Hall is a great venue. I'm super excited to play there because I've seen a few shows there, and it's such a cool place.
That's awesome. Do you know if you have a cover charge for those shows, or are they free shows?
The Vision Lounge is $7, and the doors are at 7. I think bands start playing at 8. And then Lincoln Hall, I'm actually not sure of the cover, but
We'll find that out for you. We'll definitely get it up on our Facebook as we
awesome.
we get
Thanks.
your songs.
Thank
We'll get
you.
everything. No, not a problem. And actually, know that you're the front man, so I'm going to throw an idea at you. We've been trying here at the Afternoon Takeaway. We're looking for different events to do to not only obviously promote our own show, but Radio DePaul to the students. I mean, obviously something, I know you got to talk with your band and find out availability, but maybe through Liz and stuff, we'd like to obviously set something up where we could get you guys and feature you guys as a band, and you know, we'll do the logistics. We'll figure out the odds and ends of like a space and time, and we can you know, coordinate something. But we'd like to do, I mean, that was my whole plan with doing this radio show in general, was kind of making and giving a voice to people that, you know, want to do the same thing that we look up to everyone else, either on the radio or TV or whatever, doing. And you can't really find your way unless you start doing it. So, I mean, something we'd like to do. Hopefully we can, I mean, if you guys are open to it, we could try to work something out.
Yeah.
And
Dude, that sounds awesome, man. That sounds great. I would love to do that.
I mean, because and that's the cool thing. I look up to people like you because, I mean, I'm in my own field trying to figure out our own ways and stuff in different paths, but ultimately we're young individuals trying to make it in a grown-up world. And that is the hard thing, when you can be as motivated as you want, but it's true. They look at you and you're like, what the heck what's a kid like in college going to be able to offer, you know, as opposed. But I think with internet and with things being more accessible, we can change that mindset, because ultimately we make things popular, and we deem what's popular. I mean, young people, Hunger Games are number one because of the young people. So, I mean,
I think it's all in how you present yourself, and also just to making sure like people take you as seriously as you take yourself. You know.
I agree.
And then also it's about like consistently producing like a great, like something of quality that's like worthwhile to listen to. I mean, I think as long as we do that, and as long as people do that, then, you know, they can get somewhere.
I agree, yeah, because you're filling both genres. You're creating great quality, good content that obviously you're going to grow listeners and people, you know, same age or whatever, that find that appealing. And then on top of it, by the way that you conduct yourself and interact, your future employers are going to look at you and be like, okay, yeah, I can trust, and I'll take a bet on someone that's younger. It's just because it's never been done, you know. You guys being younger, it's a risk for them, so they're like, but we'll change that.
You guys definitely have a really good sound too. You have a genre of music that I personally like to listen to, you know, kind of more gritty rock and roll style, which I really like, and I think a lot of people, it's a very popular genre now. And just like, what kind of bands do you guys kind of listen to that kind of helped you shape your sound?
Well, we all kind of have like, we all have similar tastes, obviously, but we all have our key like things that we love. I mean, in high school and stuff, we grew up listening to like the White Stripes and like the Strokes and the Hives and stuff like that. Kind of that like new wave of like garage rock bands that came out around that time. But and that kind of like shaped a lot of things. At first, you know, it's kind of, especially like when you're younger, you kind of like idolize and want to emulate the people that you like look up to. And so it's taken us a while to like, now I feel like it's good, like we have our own sound. We sound like us now, not like a band who's like in high school trying to sound like the White Stripes or like the Black Keys or something. And you know, I think right now is a really good time for the kind of music that we are doing, because, you know, of successive bands like the Black Keys, who just won a Grammy for our brothers, and like now they're huge, playing stadiums and stuff. So, you know, that kind of resurgence of popularity in like blues-based rock music is, I think that's a good thing for us. But I don't want to like, the last thing I want to do is like be seen as like a rip-off band or something.
A mimic, right.
Yeah, like, so I think it's good that we're at a point where I feel like we just sound like us now.
That's really great. And just reminding everyone that you guys do have a show. Sons of the West are performing March 29th at Vision Nightclub, and also they have another show coming up through DePaul May 6th at Lincoln Hall. And before I let you go, I just wanted to thank you again so much for coming on the air. Sorry we kind of had to play phone tag with you.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much.
And as I said before, I mean, obviously that's our goal here at the Afternoon Takeaway, Anthony. Like, when we're signing off, actually, we're going to be playing what's the other song we're going to debut?
Headstrong.
And
nice.
what we'd like to do, obviously, is we'd like to stay in contact through Liz, obviously, because she found you guys, and we are completely open to having you guys on as much as possible. And then every week we'll plug and promote and talk about a new song for you guys.
That's awesome, man.
The biggest thing I figure especially in media, it doesn't matter what version you're in, films, TV, radio, music, whatever. I mean, social networking, the people that you know, and creating those relationships, that's what sets you apart. And I mean, you probably know this firsthand. I mean, how you conduct yourself, the people that you know. Once you do one good show, then you have credibility from there and the people that you interacted with there. And I don't want this just to be, like a little hit and run where we plug you once and talk about you coming to Lincoln Park. Like, let's build something here and try to put you as a staple, at least for our show and stuff like that, where we can always be releasing something new, and maybe we can do some giveaways that are, somehow centered around your music or something. We can, like, whatever, like first song that we played on our show or something. I don't know, but we'll figure that out. It's
yeah, man. Let's get something going.
Fantastic. Well, Liz will definitely stay in contact with you then, and we'll continue this, and hopefully, again, like I said, come. You're always welcome to come on. Like I said, I like people that conduct themselves the same way as you, because that's my view of the world, is that, yes, you have to have a certain type of content. You have to have something unique that you bring to the table, but you also have to know that there's rules to the game that have already been set. And you can't just come in and say, well, I'm young, I don't want the rules to apply to me, listen to me. You seem like you definitely, in your band, does the ability of creating. We played the other song earlier, and it was awesome. And you guys conduct yourself in the way where you're commanding the respect, not because you're saying it, but because you know the rules and you're playing by them. So those are my type of people that I want to build around. So we're gonna figure something out, man.
Yeah, man. Let's get something going.
Fantastic. Well, like Liz said, we do. Thanks for sticking with us. We got off the phone actually with Josh Dickey. He's the film editor for Variety down in L.A. So
oh, nice.
Yeah, he called in a little bit late, but I couldn't actually tell him bye. So I was like, we'll get him on. We're not going to say bye to Josh just yet. But yeah, man. So we'll definitely everyone who's listening will hear your voice later on through the song, and then we'll get you on sometime soon as well, and just have
awesome,
you
man.
Get your.
Looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. Again, thank you for taking the time out and hanging with us. And
no, thank you guys. Thanks for having me on the show.
We'll definitely talk to you soon, Anthony.
All right, sounds good. See you guys.
All right, take care, Anthony.
All right. Well, everyone, we thank you so much for bearing with us, hopefully for the next 15 minutes. And that was our show. Man, that was a lot.
Yeah.
Like, towards the end, that got really, like a lot going on really fast in a short time. So, obviously, just a quick recap. We talked about a little bit about the stuff with the Trayvon in Chicago and gun laws, and then we got into Hunger Games, and then Josh came on. I think we took, 2 breaks the whole entire time?
Yeah, pretty much. We were nonstop.
It makes
talking.
sense. For a perspective talk show after spring break and not being on for so long, all we want to do is talk. So, Liz, segue to us signing out, and one more time, tell all your listeners what song we're playing.
Yeah, this is Headstrong from Sons of the West. They do have a show coming up Thursday, so definitely take a look. And thanks again, Anthony, Sons of the West, Headstrong.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Bradley. Thank you, Liz. And we'll see you guys come next Tuesday. Peace.